Hey everybody, this is a two-part video series about how to release anger in a conscious way. And in this first part, we want to explain the background of anger release and just help you to understand why this practice is so beneficial. And in the second part of this video, which is just linked below, Matt is actually guiding me through a full 12-minute practice and you can follow along. So if you're just interested in doing it, just hop on over to the other videos. But for everyone else who's interested in the background and what's the point basically of anger release, we want to get into this today. And before we get started, we'll just introduce ourselves. So my name is Veronica, I'm a life coach and I help people reconnect to their emotions and in a compass, which directly leads them to their higher purpose. And I'm joined today by Matt, my husband, who is an expert on anger release. And so I was really happy that he made this practice, and I actually felt like angry for the last week. So I was so happy also to have had this beautiful release that he guided me through.
Yeah, so I have a background in men's work, and around this area we do a lot of anger work, so I've got a lot of tools and things so I can share that as well. So yeah, as Veronique said, it's a two-part video really. It's good to watch beforehand before jumping in, because the guided one is not as much as explanation, which we'll cover here.
100%. And maybe let's talk a little bit about how we got into anger work. I think that's really interesting because we know each other for about almost 6 years now?
Yeah, so 6 years.
Yeah.
A while, yeah.
And it was pretty in the beginning of our relationship that I really got interested in emotional work, and Matt also. So we started to do anger work because, Matt wanted to work on his masculinity and his boundaries, and for me as well. And we both, I think, felt that we had a lot of built-up anger, you know, just from basically all our lives, because, you know, we both come from cultures that doesn't really express very much.
But I would even say, for me, I wasn't aware that I had the anger. I think that's an important aspect of it. If you'd have asked me 6 years ago, let's say, do you have any anger? I would have said, no, I don't have any. So when you start doing this work, you'll probably discover that yes, you do. Even if you don't think you do, there's maybe some depth there. There's some deep things that get repressed quite heavily. So that's maybe important to know.
I always say that I don't trust anybody who says they are not angry, because most likely it's just that they have a lot of suppressed anger, because as I said, in our culture, first of all, we don't have any practice, we don't really have any spaces where you can release emotions, and especially not anger, because I think it's arguably the most suppressed emotion actually. But then also people actually even strive for not being angry, right? Like anger is seen as something so bad, so terribly, so wrong, because of course people are afraid of the destructive potential of anger, which we totally understand. But the thing is that if you actually practice conscious anger release, you are a much more peaceful person, because there's not this force inside you, you know, that you're trying to hold on to, and then at any given moment it can just explode, because the energy is always flowing and you actually get much more in control of this powerful energy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's really a myth that anger should be suppressed and controlled. So the subtlety here is anger definitely needs to be expressed and felt, because if you can do it in a conscious way, like in our video that goes alongside this, then it really helps you to feel your anger and express it and release it properly. Because if you're not doing this kind of stuff, anger will store inside you, and then it can creep out in unhealthy ways. So this can be things like passive aggression, you know, or maybe being very volatile. You can flip very quickly, you know, at a small situation. So if you do this kind of work and you can work through your anger and express it and release it, you're much less, volatile, let's say.
100%. And the thing is also that suppressed anger comes with a huge cost. That's even greater than what Matt just shared. I mean, of course, even if you just meet a person who's constantly passive aggressive, it's like terrible, right? But suppressed anger and any kind of suppressed emotion actually can really lead to physical, mental and emotional ailments. And the research is still very young here. But for example, Gabor Mate is someone who is really big in this area, because of course the alternative health practitioners have said for a very long time, you know, that your emotions have such a huge impact on your overall well-being, and of course on your happiness. And if you want to know more about this topic specifically, I have actually a whole video titled The Hidden Cost of Suppressed Anger, so you can check that out. I'll link it also below.
Yeah.
And so how is it in your life with anger release? Like, how do you practice this, and how has it benefited you over the years?
Yeah, so I guess my journey around this, it started, like I said, I wasn't aware I had anger. I thought I didn't have any. And then I started to go to some workshops where we would do anger release exercises as a group. So the first time I did this, I had a massive release, let's say. Really a lot of stuff came up. It was very big release, shouting, not physical punching like a bag or something like this. It was just vocal actually the first time. But it was a very, very, very big release. There was a lot of depth came up. And I continued going to some workshops in the sort of next couple of years, maybe every 6 months or so, and did some similar kind of expressions with anger. And then since then, this kind of big pool that was inside of me, basically this was my lifetime build-up of unexpressed anger. A lot of that was released, so my tank now is generally a lot smaller. So it still fills up and there's still anger there, but there's not this kind of massive big tank anymore like there was before I did any anger work. So an experience you can make is when you start doing this work is you might realise, oh shit, there's a lot there. You describe it like the tank is very full, you've got lots of logs on the fire, you know, so it's very, it can ignite very quickly.
Totally.
So now it's more of like I can manage the anger from doing an anger expression practice like in the video, but I don't do that so frequently now, you know, once a month is enough.
Yeah.
And that works for me, but at the start of the kind of process, then it was a lot more intense.
Yeah, I can remember that. I think there was a few years ago when we started this, where we did it a lot, because as Matt just beautifully shared, yeah, it just stores up. And so you can do it more frequently to really release that. And for me it was really the same. And I also noticed that when I have more stress, this practice is even more beneficial for me. So we just filmed the other episode just before, and it was actually so nice for me because, yeah, we are doing lots of creation work around my business at the moment, and it's beautiful, but it also is stressing me. So it was really great to do this today. And as you can also see in the follow along video, in the end I'm really smiling and really happy, because what's important to understand about emotions is that they are all interlinked, and that actually the way a child has emotions is much more natural than most adults, because children flow like so easily, you know, between sadness, grief, anger, happy, you know, that's how they flow, and that's natural and that's normal. And for me, the more emotional work I do, the more childlike I actually become. I anyways have quite flowing emotions, and quite big emotions, but they become much more flexible, I would say, and that's actually super healthy, because what's really unhealthy is if you really get stuck, you know, you maybe know this feeling in one thing. Oh, I feel always anxious, I feel always overwhelmed. Like, that's so exhausting for the system, because that's not how we are meant to live. We are really meant to flow. And so it's a releasing feeling that can bring happiness.
And that's really important that Bernie's saying this, because to go back to my story, my experience of anger, the first times, particularly when I was expressing my anger, afterwards a lot of tears would come. There'd be a lot of sadness and a lot of crying, and feeling a lot of pain actually. So that's a really common experience with anger release, particularly if you haven't done it for a while, because I think, as Bernie will explain, anger is really often a cover emotion for, when you say,
hurt and
specifically
pain.
hurt
And pain, yeah.
Hurt and pain. So once you get through those layers of the anger expressed, then the kind of protective mechanism is kind of gone, and then often what can happen then, the sadness is allowed to kind of feel and also release.
Yeah.
So that's a really common experience that people have, and I had particularly at the start of the kind of, I guess, anger release journey.
And that can be also really helpful, especially for people, because some people have more easy access to sadness, very often women, and some people have more easy access to anger, generally speaking, often men. So for people who find it difficult to access sadness, it can be a way to access it through anger. And again, most people are like, oh, but why would you want to access sadness? The point is that every one of us feels sad. It's just normal. If you never cry, if you never release your sadness, it's the same thing. It just gets stuck. So it's good if you do practices to get you in this emotional flowing. It's the more you can express and let it out in a healthy way, in a conscious way, by not hurting other people, the better, you know? So, and that's, I think, the biggest message that we want to bring for you is like, don't be afraid of expression.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not common in our society, but it doesn't mean that society has it right. And we can see this, you know, just how, unhappy and miserable basically people are.
Yeah, so it's really important to recognize a lot of the kind of new age stuff. It says a lot about rising above your emotions, let's say, or, you know, shanti, I don't feel angry or aggressive, or I don't feel these kind of emotions, or you can suppress them. This is not true. It's really, they'll come, they'll go down, and then they'll just pop out in other ways, you know? So it's totally natural to have these emotions, these expressions. It's just important to express them properly.
Exactly. And lastly, I wanted to speak a bit about the relationship of the masculine and the feminine in terms of anger. So, in my coaching practice, I have experienced a lot when I work with male clients that they often find it really difficult to be around a really angry woman. And a part of this is the power of the feminine, essentially, because, you know, the interesting thing about the feminine is that it's both very soft, you know, and nurturing and flowing, but it's also very wild. The feminine can be really wild. And that can be scary, but also especially because many of these clients that I've been working with had really intense mothers they were quite traumatized by them, and so parts of them, you know, were still stuck in this childhood experience of being afraid of mom, and then they would transfer this experience onto the adulthood, and that's where this added fear came from of the angry woman. And if that's something that you are struggling with, I encourage you to watch my video, How to Deal with a Woman's Anger, where I go in detail into this. And there I also explain, of course, that it's really, really helpful to get in touch with your own anger, because it will help you to connect with your own inner strength. Of course, you know, it's not about starting a battle then with her, but if you are really afraid, then it can help you to really connect with your own power and notice that she can never hurt you. You know, you're always physically safe. And in the video, then I go more into detail how you can actually handle this in a really conscious way, and it can turn into like a really beautiful practice, because what the feminine wants essentially is to be held by a strong man, you know, who accepts all parts of her. That's sort of like the dream. And yeah, we can create this if both partners together work on this topic.
Yeah, really nice point. So the benefits then of doing the anger release, so a lot of them we've touched on already, but to give you a few more. You can become much less reactive to your environment. You're much less kind of charged around things that happen to you day to day, so you can react in generally a much better way. Doing this as well really helps you to get in touch with your own strength and your own power, because you do have it all there, and being able to feel it and recognize it a bit more day to day, this is just a really great feeling to have. Other benefits.
Yeah, I think, did you say this, feeling your own strength, feeling your own power?
Yeah, feeling the strength, the power. Yeah, just generally, it also gets you in touch, of course, you know, with the underlying emotions that are there, and release them in any ways also. It's incredibly healthy.
Yeah, and I would say the last benefit is actually that you start to feel your body again. So when we filmed before and I did the exercise before, you know, because the whole day I'm basically working on my laptop, I'm very much in my head, and it just brought me into the body. And that's so important as a modern person, because you feel emotions in the body, and emotions are what guide you essentially through your life. If you can't feel your body, it's like basically impossible to know what's a good decision and what not. So any practice that brings you into your body is so helpful. And also always remember, we are one system. We are not just emotion separated from body, separated from mind. No, it's all interlinked and intertwined together.
Yeah, that's a really nice last point, and I guess to build on that, what it also does, it gives your body this almost like a shock to the system. It can snap you out of like a potential like rut you're in or a cycle. It can snap you into kind of a new outlook on a situation or a new outlook on the decision as well.
100%.
I guess that leads on to the final point really then about frequency. So how often should you be doing this? It really depends. Depends how charged you feel. If you do feel a lot of charge, then you can really do this video daily for a period of time. So you do it daily for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But if it's the kind of start of your anger release journey, I would say at least do this once a week for say a period of time, a month, let's say. You don't have to be charged to do the video. You don't have to be like, oh, you know, you're really angry about something, I need to watch that video now. It's a really good time to watch it if you have the space to do that, but often when you are charged, you're probably not in a space you can necessarily do this in, because sometimes it's a person, right, that's triggered something. So yeah, but you don't need to be in that space to do it. You can come into a space in your house and you can do it anytime really.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to go a bit deeper in this topic, I also have a free online course on my website, which is called The Warrior's Cry, and there I talk about in general how to manage very intense emotions, not just anger. So feel free to click the link below and download that. And otherwise, yeah, thank you so much for watching. I think this is our great passion, because emotional work right now is so needed to really awaken mankind and raise consciousness on this planet, because we have a very developed mind but a very underdeveloped understanding of emotions. So I hope so much that yeah, it was helpful to you, and yeah, thank you for taking this path. It's a difficult path, but
yeah,
it's so worth it. Yeah, because you will experience so much inner freedom. Because when you watch this practice video, I really go full out. But I've been doing this for a long time now, and it has really so freed me. Like, I have no problem, you know, showing this part of me in front of the camera. So yeah, so thank you, my beautiful man, for guiding me. It was absolutely a pleasure to do this with you.
A pleasure to do it for you. And to you guys as well, yeah, please check out the video, do the practices, and yeah, I hope it's beneficial to you.
Exactly, and let us know in the comments how you find the practice. So have a beautiful day, and we hope to see you soon.
No.